Remind me next year when we get to like a few weeks outside of Halloween that we bombard everybody's house with something to give out about reunion. That when you give candy, that you also drop that in there. So everybody stick that in your head. And so a year from now, we can remember that. Beth had an epiphany like on Friday. She goes, it would have been awesome. I said, yeah, they're all in the truck. You know, I know the little thing that's already printed. I said, that would be great. We already have them printed. She goes, where are they? Oh, they're in the truck. I said, oh, okay, they didn't quite work. So too late. But anyway, I just want to share that thought today, so that you would lock it in. We are starting on a new series, a journey of generosity. It is, for the next 3 weeks, we'll be doing that. And then we'll be having this sermon that just deals with Thanksgiving on that fourth Sunday of November. And also at that time, what we want to do is we want to challenge on this month is just, I want to grow in generosity. I want to move somewhere in my life. I just don't want to stay where I am in this realm. And it's a part discipleship. And this morning, we're going to deal with the foundation or the prerequisite of generosity is really just the idea of discipleship. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But then we'll be having that. Leading up, we'll have a card and just a challenge and praying over just the idea that I want movement in my life. I don't want to be in the same place as I am right now. And how do I commit myself to that movement? The end of the month, Thanksgiving weekend, you'll be blessed. Kevin Dooley will be here and will be preaching that Sunday. And for those who may or may not, anybody know Kevin Dooley out there? Some of those know, yeah, I'd say the halls would know Kevin Dooley. But a missionary to all over the world for many years. He's actually worshiped with us a couple times in the last couple months. You may not know him, but he would sit right in the middle and right kind of in the back third back there. A good friend and missionary, but he's a passionate man. That's all I can say, and you'll be enjoy that. You know, there's points in your life when you grow up. There's certain paradigm shifts where the world gets turned upside down for you, and some of it affects this idea in this realm of when it comes to sharing or generosity or giving. I mean, because when you're a child, when you're a baby, that first year, man, everything is about you. Everything is about being given to you, and you're learning language, and you're understanding life, you understand the world, and everybody comes to you, oh, here's your bottle, here's your toy, grandma comes, this is yours, oh, look at this, this is your pretty little dress, or these are your pants, or look at your new shoes. If you notice that the word yours all the time, this concept in a one-year-old's mind begins to be formed. It happened to all of us, and the thought that, that's mine. I like this word mine. This is something I own. And we start getting attached to certain things. And people say, well, this is yours. And we have this idea that we begin to develop this world of what I have and what belongs to me at a very young age. Until there's this tragic and horrible moment when all of a sudden either a sibling enters into your world or your mom happens to think you need to have a play date and have someone come over, and all of a sudden these toys, these things that all along you have been convinced that are yours, you hear a new word that your mind has never heard before. And mom gives you a look that's like, oh no, you're doing the wrong thing, and you're confused because you've never heard this word share before in your life. You've only heard for a year mine, and it's like my toy, it's my things, and it's like you've even gotten fights over put your toys away. You notice how you say that? You don't say they're our toys or they're someone else's toys. They go, put your toys away, and you get in a battle of putting toys away or not putting toys away. And there's this idea. Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, these are all mine. Now someone comes in, it's like, I need to share this. I don't get this. This is not in my understanding. This is not my worldview. Everything in my worldview says this is mine. And then all of a sudden we begin this transition into this concept of realizing that, wait a minute, everything in this world that's been given to me is not mine. Now, I would like to say that we have grown tremendously as adults. That we have gone to the place where we have no issue with sharing whatsoever. That it is so easy to be generous. It is so easy to let go of things. But I would know that that is a lie because of my own life, of my own heart, of my own mental processes as I go through life. And we learn in moments of our life of giving and sharing. We understand the value of it. And I think there's a lot of my heart and our hearts that we can say that really I've got a lot to do to grow in this world of sharing. And so this is what I want you to do. When you came in, you should have gotten a little post-it card. Did you get a post-it card? To do this morning. I know this is, and you can either share or not share what you're going to write down here. But what I wanted to simply do is this. I want you to write down things that you have problems sharing. And it doesn't have to be objects. I mean, it could be objects. It could be a wide variety of things from time. It could be, there's some things you don't share, obviously. But what would you have in your own heart know that you would wrestle with sharing or giving away? Not even sharing, because sharing means temporary. We can even add in there, what would you have problems just giving away? Releasing altogether. Write it down. I'm going to give you about 15 seconds. Go. Now, this is what I want you to do with this for the rest of the morning. I want you to take this, all right? And I don't want you to post it. You can fold it up. You can do anything you want to. I want you to choose which hand you're going to put it in. You can wad it up, and I just want you to hang on to it. That's all I want you to do. I just want you to hang on to it in your hand the rest of the morning. Just hang on to it. Because if you stop and think, what did you say? These are things you don't want to let go of, right? These are things you struggle in sharing or being generous with. These are things or objects or things that you do not want to let go of. So, all right, those are right there. Now, just hang on to them. You can hang on to them tight, light, all you want to for the rest of the morning. Because the reality is, as we work through this thing of generosity, it's about this, transitioning from this, where I've got a firm grip on something, to where it's very loose. That's the journey of faith. Am I going to talk about finances over the next month? Probably. But not in a sense of that's my goal by any means, because the reality is that we want to move in this area of learning to trust in all things and all relationships with my life. I want to learn how to be generous in all the realms of my relationships, of my being, of who I am. The goal is to allow the Holy Spirit to help us grow and to help me grow in this area of being generous in my life. Because I think that there's always this journey we need to, because we can even be people who give a lot of things away. I can be a person who gives a lot of money away. I can donate a lot of things to a lot of people, but relationally I may be very stingy. Or I may be somebody that is very hard on relationships, and therefore but yet do something else that is very much giving, but in doing so very critical or condescending. And there's still a sense of generosity that needs to be grown in discipleship. There's still things I want to hang on to, because I think there's a lot of things that we guard, there's a lot of things we protect, that even this morning as we walk through this text will help us understand in our own heart and our mind where some of these deep struggles, I think, come from. Why do I struggle to give away things that seem so small? It's probably in my own heart a root that's buried down to something very deeper, to my own walk and journey with Christ and understanding what God's calling me to do. So Luke chapter 9, if you have your Bibles this morning or your phones, you want to turn there or look at the passage, Luke 9. We're going to be looking at verses 49 through chapter 10, verse 2 this morning. Multiple sections and encounters we have here with Christ, and follow along as I read this morning of Luke 9, 49, starting in verse 49. Argument about who will be the greatest. This is towards the end of it. Verse 49 says, "Master," said John, we saw a man driving out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he's not one of us. Do not stop him, Jesus said, for whoever is not against you is for you. And as the same time approached for him to be taken up to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem, and he sent messengers on ahead who went into the Samaritan village to get things ready for him. But the people there did not welcome him because he was heading for Jerusalem. And when the disciples James and John saw this, they asked, "Lord, do you want us to call fire down from heaven to destroy them?" But Jesus turned and rebuked them, and they went on to another village. And as they were walking along the road, a man said to him, "I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus replied, "Foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." He said to another man, "Follow me." But the man replied, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father." And Jesus said to him, "Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God." And still another said, "I will follow you, Lord, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family." And Jesus replied, "No one who puts his hands to the plow and looks back is fit for the service in the kingdom." After this, the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them 2 by 2 ahead of him to every town and place where he was about to go. He told them, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." Quite connection of text and encounters that these people had with Jesus. And in this, we're going to work backwards today. Normally, logically, you start like where you read and you work your way to the end of the text as far as in teaching. But this morning, I want to start at the very end. I want to start with the 72 that were sent out. I want to begin there this morning because it helps us begin to understand that generosity is seen actually in service. It's seen in action. It's seen in how we encounter and interact with different people. And we see this encounter with Jesus at 10, sending out 72, is really combined with Luke chapter 9, verses 1 and 2, where Jesus himself sent out the 12. And this is what he says there when he sends out the 12. Luke 9, 1 and 2. When Jesus had called the 12 together, he gave them power and authority to drive out all demons and to cure diseases. And he sent them out to preach the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. Jesus sent out the 12 to do three things: to preach, to cast out demons, to heal the sick. It was to restore them. And he sent out the 72 as well. He sent out them with authority to proclaim the good news, to proclaim the one that was about ready to come. It was this sending out that he gave them. Now, this 72 is pretty significant. And sometimes we lose that in the thought of numbers. Sometimes we don't think of numbers being significant whatsoever. But when you go back to Genesis, and you look at Genesis 9 and 10, there's a table of nations. And for the Jewish believer, they would have known that this 72 was a significant number, because Jesus is saying this 72 is actually the table of nations is actually there's 72. That's the number. And that's why Jesus chooses 72. It's this idea of symbolic of completeness, inclusiveness, that Jesus was sending 72 in this moment to proclaim that this message of service, this message of going out, this message of encounter is an inclusive message. It's for all people, and it's for all nations to carry, not just for some individuals to be responsible for the gospel. Not just the hired hands, you may say. Well, that's what you're hired to do, is to share the gospel. I come sit, you're hired to do these things. I go about my life and do whatever. And Jesus goes, listen, this inclusiveness means everybody is given the responsibility of carrying the gospel with them. And it's important to understand there's two things learned. The message is to be carried by everyone, all believers. Not just some, not just a few, but every one of us. The second thing is this: the message is always accompanied by works of ministry. I think this is interesting. It wasn't just a verbal message. It actually was also an act or service of helps, healing, restoring. Not only minds, but bodies, this authority to drive out demons. It was to free people of the burden of sin in this world. Because we know all around us, you work with people, you have neighbors that carry the heaviness of life, and they need the freedom of the message of Jesus Christ brings. Because that's what Jesus brings. He doesn't bring rules. He doesn't bring regulations. Jesus actually brings freedom. And unfortunately, the world has believed Satan's lie of what Jesus brings. And we need to be the ones that communicate and live this freedom that Christ gives us. And it's for all of us, this beautiful work. Ephesians 2, verse 10 says, "For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." I like this idea. If you ever think that, and I get this way, and I'm assuming you do too. You ever just wonder, why in the world am I doing what I'm doing? It usually hits like Thursdays. Actually, it's Thursdays. Anybody else Thursday that hit them? Only me Thursdays? All right, maybe. Oh, there's a Thursday. There's a Tom Thursdays. I don't know. What's your day? You know your day. But there's a certain day of the week, and mine's Thursday, when I just simply go, why am I doing this? What is the energy, the hours, why am I doing this? And this text reminds me, Tim, listen, everybody I have designed is workmanship, and I have something for you to do. Instead of just wondering about, what am I here for? We have a generation that struggles, anywhere from the 18 to 26-year-old. They're going, what am I here for? What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go to college now, but I don't know why I'm supposed to go to college, because I don't know what to do. I'm going to tell you, that is another set of questions, I agree. But a part of that is going, but God, today you've given me a purpose, and I want to live it out. This word workmanship actually means a work of art. It's actually a very beautiful word. I heard someone actually describe God with the term the genuine artist. I've never heard someone describe God that way before, but there was something beautiful about it. For those that are in the artsy kind of folks, it's the idea that he's the one who generated and created all these things from himself. But he says, you're this work of art. It's where we actually get our word poem from. And it helps us understand this, that God is weaving and making us and designing us into something beautiful. That's why he's put you where you live. That's why the coworkers you work with that sometimes are very difficult to work with, God has placed you there for a very reason. It's for his purpose to carry out his work that needs to be done. There's need to be freedom to be given. There's this idea of giving of time and effort. I'm here in my workplace or school. If you're in high school and junior high, you're always afraid, who am I next to with my locker? That first day of school, who's there? That's a moment that God goes, I've given you this person because I need you to bless them. I need you to use you for this great purpose. We need to continue to grow in this sense of being sent. When you get up in the morning, you're being sent. Jesus was sending the 72. When we come in here to worship, it's really the beginning of the week. Why? This isn't the end of the week. This is the beginning of the week, to be sent, to find freshness, to rest today with God's people, to worship him, to be restored so that you can be sent this week in order to accomplish what God wants you to accomplish. It's this generous life is increasingly selfless. And that's a hard thing to live. It's a hard thing to look at, is how selfless am I becoming in my life? How much of my life, when I look at it, a dashboard, I don't know if you think of your life and maybe some new concepts, but the dashboard of your life, a dashboard on a car tells you how well your car is doing. And there's red areas. I don't know much about cars, but I know if your needle's in a red area, that's bad. If there's a light that comes, they're called idiot lights. If those come on, it's not good. Outside of that, I don't know much else about a vehicle. But a dashboard tells you either how well you're doing or how well you're not doing. And I think sometimes we need to create spiritual dashboards. And I think this is one area that's healthy for us. How am I in this area of selfishness or selflessness? And so where we measure it, now no elbows this morning, no fights, no pointing fingers when you go home, all right? None of that. I'm not bringing this up to start fights, so please do not go home and Tim said, and you don't, so don't go there. Don't blame me for the argument you may have later today, all right? But let me just say, here it is, because I do believe that our relationships are the key areas where we gauge our selfishness or selflessness from. Married, husband, wife, those are gauges. How am I doing? Is my day and my week and my time dictated by what I need in my schedule? Am I considering my spouse? Am I considering my children? Am I considering any of those things as I look at my week? Or is my week basically through the filter of my life? Okay? You get to decide where your needle is on that. Coworkers, would coworkers consider you someone who is engaged and selfless as a coworker? Or would they consider you someone that basically sticks to your job and really looks at everybody with the word, well, that's not my job? You know people who you've heard that before, right? It's not my job. I don't do that. That's not my job description. All right? If you're a Christian and follower of Christ, that's in your job description. Simply serving. How can I serve my coworkers? How can I serve the company? How can I advance things of that nature? It's important to grasp. There's many other illustrations, because Jesus, even in Mark chapter 8, it reminds us, listen, you want to save your life? In other words, you want to make your life count? Then you need to learn to lose your life. He says you need to let it go. You need to matter of fact, if you let it go for Jesus, he says, and for the good news and for the message, then you're going to find life. You're going to live a life. You're going to find the full purpose of life when you actually learn to not do this with life, but more like this with life. When you begin to give away things away, and know, because I can give things away because I'm connected to the Father who blesses me and will take care of my resources. I can give things away when I have faith to trust that God's going to take care of me. I can give away more things than I even may need. I run the people that will get, why? Because they have a connection to a Father. They have a faith of a Father that goes, he's taking care of me all this way. Why in the world, if I give this away, is he not going to take care of me? And I think we can all grow in that area. I can grow in that area with all of my life. And I think that's an ongoing challenge. Our service is born, though, out of discipleship. Let's jump now to these guys that came. We're working backwards. Now we're from the 72. Now we're going to jump all the way down, and we're going to look at these three guys who come to Jesus. They're journeying to Jerusalem. And on their way, these guys come to him with this idea of disciple. I want to follow you. I want to be your disciple. And Jesus does something that's quite interesting. He didn't bend over backwards and say, come on in, join in. This is great. It's the best thing you'll ever do. There's no cost to this. It's no big deal. It's just kind of come and hang out and enjoy the community that we've got here because we're going to Jerusalem. Everybody come on board. He looks at him real quick and real straight, and he gives him one line. One is he's got an advantage over us. He's God, and he's able to look at them and go, he knew exactly what was in each of their hearts. He knew what was in here. He knew what they had written. No one else could see it. Everything else was hidden from everybody else. But Jesus knew exactly what they were holding on to, and he wanted them to know some things about being his disciple when it comes to those things. And he says, listen, first of all, there can be no conditions to following Christ. No conditions. First man comes and said, I'll follow you wherever you go. I love that term. Wherever, Jesus, wherever you go. And Jesus responds back to him, and he begins to say, listen, you follow me, then you're going to let go of everything that you may have, everything you've collected, because where I go, I don't have hotel reservations, I don't have a home, I don't have a resident, I don't have a pillow. Foxes, critters of this earth have better living conditions than those who follow me. What he said to know is this, listen, if you follow me, it's about laying everything down and not pursuing what everybody else thinks that we should have. That is a hard line and a hard act in discipleship. And following Jesus means walking away from something. I don't know if you understand it. I was 8 when I gave my life to Jesus. I was very, very young. On one hand, that was very good, but I did not grasp the understanding of walking away from something at 8. I know brothers and sisters around the world. I have brothers that have walked away from their family. I know Muslim men and women who have walked away from their families to follow Christ. And you're talking about knowing the cost to following Jesus. And I stop and think about Matthew, the tax collector, Jesus' disciple. He walked away from a business, a lucrative business, to follow Christ. Peter, James, and John, just fishermen, but fishermen that had a living. They had a business that they were doing. Their families probably depended on what they caught, what they sold. It was a part of their life. They walked away from all of that to follow Jesus Christ. It cost them something to do that. And I think that when we come to this text, we need to understand that discipleship is following him with no condition. Jesus reaches even then to another man, and he asks him, will you follow me? Jesus pursues this man's heart, and then this man goes, let me go bury my father. And the other one, that is actually, in a sense, can be interpreted a lot of different ways. Some say his father was dead. Some say his father wasn't dead. There is an accountability of the firstborn to take care of the father, and he may have been old of age. And in other words, he may have been saying, I'll follow you when my father dies, and then I can come follow you. Or he could have been saying, my father is ill, and I need to stay with him for a while until he dies. Or he could say he's actually dead, and I need to go bury him. Either way, it really doesn't matter which way you want to interpret it, because Jesus says it doesn't matter. It's a condition. I'll follow you when. Or I'll follow you if. Or I'll follow you if this works out for me. Then I will be this disciple you want me to be. I will learn to walk with you and to walk alongside of you. And Jesus says none of that works. There's no conditions in following Jesus Christ. There is no as long as, or but first, or if you will, whatever it is, that the real master, if we have any of those things, that I'll serve, I'll worship you occasionally, I'll go to church on occasionally because I have other things. Listen, being a disciple and being a part of God's people is about being consistent, because I want to be a part of this body. I want to encourage one another. We need each other. We need to encourage each other in that and not grow tired in that. And Jesus wanted them to know that. And the other thing is this: there can be no wavering. No wavering. And you kind of get that with the other one. I want to go say goodbye. I want to go say goodbye to that. And Jesus says, listen, don't put your hand to the plow and turn around and look back. Now, Jesus is using something that's very common to them. They knew that. When you were plowing your field, when you had the oxen or the mule, whatever you were using in front of you and had that plow and going down the furrow, if you wanted your fields to be plowed well, you couldn't be doing this. You couldn't be looking backwards and moving forwards. Because if you did, all the rows would be just crazy. Your field would be a mess. It required straight thinking, straightforward looking, and keeping your eye focused and moving and following forward. And Jesus says, that's it. Once you put your hand to it, there's no looking back to what it could have been or what it was. Israel was guilty of that. Why did you, when they complained to Moses and said, why didn't you just let us die back there? We had it better back there than we did following God into the desert. We see Lot's wife looking back, burning city of Sodom and Gomorrah and turning into salt. We see Elijah was so frustrated with his wavering of the people of Israel. One day they wanted to follow God, the other day they wouldn't. One moment they did, and now they don't. There's no consistency whatsoever. In 1 Kings 18:21, we see Elijah say this. He went before the people and said, how long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. If Baal is God, follow him. But the people said nothing. Can you imagine Elijah the prophet going, listen, choose. And you just kind of go, I don't know if I want to choose today. I don't know. Is there a benefit or not? Listen, Elijah, listen, there are days that we don't get to sit down as a disciple and go, I'm going to be your disciple today, but not tomorrow because I'm going to be in this environment. We don't schedule it out. If we're God's disciple, then we are his disciple. Romans 12 says 1 and 2, I beseech you, brothers, by the mercy of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Reasonable service. I never really caught that before. But a living sacrifice, giving up, surrendering, letting go, whatever's in this, this isn't like, oh, wow, you have gone up. You are not just an average disciple. You are just a top 10 disciple, if you're able to, no, reasonable. That actually word I think of as average, wouldn't you? Like, this is just like the medium. This is what's expected. This is like your job description, to be a living sacrifice. It's a reasonable act of service. It's not going above and beyond. It's not going, way up and high. It is this is what got consistency. Consistency is a part of it. Our discipleship is based on grace. Quickly, after these encounters, we see backing up this moment, two moments that kind of occur here with the disciples. One is where both of these actually, where you don't see really grace occurring. One is that you have this moment where the disciples have just got done arguing who's the best, who's the closest to God, and all this other kind of stuff. And then John all of a sudden says, listen, there's this guy casting out demons, and we told him to stop it because he wasn't one of us. It's basically what John is saying. Listen, he doesn't go to our church. He isn't with us. We're the only ones that are in the right. We're the only ones doing the right thing. Everybody else is lost. And for whoever this person was, we do not know. How he was driving out, we do not know, but what we do know is that he by belief and by faith in Jesus Christ was doing exactly what Christ had empowered the disciples to do. And the disciples were like, well, wait a minute, you're not one of the 12 because we're special. We're an inside group. This is who our identity is. And notice how Jesus responds to them. Hey, man, if he's out there working in the name of Christ, let him alone. Let him go. Encourage him. Let him move on. Join him. Don't try to pull him back. Don't try to stand in his way. Encourage him to do what is being done. And there was just this no grace that John had not got it. John had not accepted it. John had not realized that this power, this authority, this was to be given away and not to be stopped. And even when they entered in this Samaritan village and this place, it's important for us to understand this grace to those that are not like us. The first one was John, and there's others like us. And drives me nuts. I do not know why I look at Facebook. Does anybody ever feel that way? I look at it and go, why am I? Especially when I see church leaders bashing other churches, or I see people that are followers of Jesus Christ putting up an article that bashes the church, I'm going, do you not get it? Why are we degrading ourselves? And I think it's important for us to go, the church is beautiful. We're different. This campus isn't the same as the Dan Jones campus. It's beautiful. I love what's at Dan Jones campus. I love what's at Stafford Road. It's beautiful. I love what's down the road up here at the Baptist Church. I love all that God's doing in this county because he's doing things greater than what we are, and we need to celebrate it and encourage people and keep up the fight in the journey and not draw lines and not say this is what God is working and we need to celebrate it. And God has also showed us the grace to the others around us, to the non-believing world, because you see, here James and John got so ticked when they would not accept Jesus in the Samaritan village. He basically goes back to Elijah and goes, burn them, burn them, burn them, burn them. Baptist, you think of the Baptist, hellfire and brimstone. That's exactly what this was occurring in this moment. God, man, they rejected other servants. They rejected Elijah, and Elijah called down fire and burned people up. Man, if they had rejected Elijah, the prophet, what was going to happen when they reject Jesus himself? And they're like, you want us to start the fire, Lord? Because, they deserve it. But what we see here is that Jesus turns the rebuke towards the disciples. We don't know what he says here. This is like one of those coaching moments. There's nothing written in here in this moment. But I would only guess it wasn't pretty. But it also was probably pretty gracious towards them. He wanted them to know that this is just generosity. And this is what's interesting. Jesus didn't come. He did not come to condemn the world. He did not come to burn it, as John would say. And we may get angry at the world. They're so different than us. Lord, I don't know why you just don't end this whole thing. Ever been there? It's because our God is a God of grace, and that grace has been given to me. Luke 12, 49 through 50, we see these words of Jesus. He goes, I have come to bring fire on earth. Notice this. And how I wish it were already kindled. But I have a baptism to undergo, and how distressed I am until it is completed. You see, the fire that Jesus brought was the fire that came upon himself. He received the wrath of God on that cross. Think about his generosity. Think about what he let go of. Think about what he has done in order that we could have life and exchange what we want to do this with what he gives us. Even in the face of Malchus, he takes the time to put his ear back on. Think about what he even says on the cross, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. There's such beauty in that. 3 things. The call of Christ is radical. To follow Christ today in our culture, it's radical, and it's going to get more radical, but it's going to be more beautiful because it's going to be more distinctive when we are radical, not out of laws and regulations and legalities, but we are Christ's people who love large and who are generous and who give and are willing to pour out. 2 is the call of Christ is clear. There's no reason at all that we don't understand this call to follow him. It's a clear calling. Follow me, but you got to lay everything down. You got to hold on to life loosely, not tightly. The call of Christ, the 3rd thing, includes full engagement, 24/7. The time you wake up, the time you go to sleep, I'm engaged with Christ and the work that God has for us. It is foundational. It is foundational. Now, this is what I want you to do with this. You're thinking, what's Tim going to have us do with this? How many of you already let go of it? Some of you put it in pockets, don't even know where it's at. This is what I'm going to have you do. I'm not going to tie this up in a little bitty bow today. I just want you to take it home, just like it is, and I want you to bring it back next week. I just add to it, unwrinkle it. Think through life this week. What am I holding on tightly to? It may be your kids. You may ask yourself, what are some things I really worry about? And add that to your list. Because those are the things you're trying to do this with. You're trying to control, and you can't control. And that's the things I don't want to share. I don't want to give that away. I don't want to release that. You may want to, you may be, who knows what. I gave away cable this month. Don't laugh at me, guys. Come on, I see it out there. I gave it away. Let go of it. I don't need to watch that much TV, and I don't need to pay that much money. Gave it away. I had to process that in my head. I'm going, really? This was something I know it's, hang on to it, think through it, allow the Spirit to lead you through, what am I hanging on to? If you think of it, bring it next week. If not, we'll have more of these and you can make the list all over again. So, but anyway, please do so. But this is the call. Be generous. Ask the Spirit to help you in this journey to begin moving, to begin seeing. But the foundation begins in following Christ. And when we follow Christ, we have to lay everything else down. Let's pray.